generally just
Hi, YouTube, slackers. There's one person again today. Thanks a lot. So when we're looking here at now moving to the next stage, if yesterday we deconstructed and we ended with thesis, let's give some tips on how do we write a decent thesis statement. So what I would see as a pretty general, like you're going to get the point, but you're probably going to write a 2 or a 3 essay, kind of looks like this. You're following the directions that we've talked about. I can pull the camera a little closer too, so you can read. It's got a subject and it's got an assertion. So we tell your reader, hey, in Trumbo's Johnny got his gun. You know, the relationship between the father and the son is characterized as blank. And that single blank, yes, you're answering the question. Yes, it's defensible, but you're not going to have the opportunity to really dig and talk a whole lot with it. Then you're going to tell me, because of the way the prompt is constructed, most people go through the use of, and they're going to give me their 2 or 3 kind of body chunks to it. For some, they're going to write this based on how the prompt is written, where it gives literary devices. So they might say selection of detail, syntax, point of view. Some are going to take my advice, which, I kind of know what I'm talking about, to go, what are the key scenes? What are the big moments that this does? But this is a really limited piece because, one, you've left off theme. And by leaving off theme, you're basically putting that sophistication point off to the side. And 2, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to really dig and build in some complexity to this conversation. A revised version that I think is going to pilot you more towards a 3 or a 4 on that commentary and evidence score would give you the opportunity to put in a blank yet blank statement for the relationship between the father and the son. With a complex construction like this, we can pull 2 adjectives that are seemingly contradictory and show how the relationship is more rounded than simplified. We would show how it's developed. And so here we would get to like key scenes that are in the book. And we would also point towards theme. This is a bigger idea that exists outside of the actual piece. So we can talk about simple themes like love, like legacy, like tradition. Or you can get into some of the nuanced things that the prompt kind of introduces, like guilt. The son's guilt for deciding to do this, even though he knows it's natural. So some questions you might have. Hey, do I need to list or organize based on the literary techniques? No. Last year's test was the first one that they did not list those techniques on the actual prompt. What they care about is that as a student, you can talk about the effect more so than you can name the technique. Easy ways to elevate your thesis right here, including the theme, giving me that complex thing. We're going to boost up our score really easily there. We want to consider the power of that adjective. You can give me here an adjective like the fact that their relationship between father and the son is changing. Sure, definitely. But can we be more specific in how it's changing or what we're noticing about that change? If I can modify it to strained, suddenly I'm able to have a more arguable approach to how the meaning is constructed and how that relationship is changing. And then when do we do this step? This step would come before we start to write. Before you move off the prompt sheet, I would suggest having a thesis in hand because now you force yourself to externalize what you understand about the passage. Next step would be to start to write. And an example is here on the board. Let's see. We'll try the handy dandy Zoom. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah. I'm like a technology wizard. Got a wizard, Mr. Walsh. Anyway. So if you assume here with ours that our phrase that we're going to use is that the relationship between the father and the son is stable yet evolving. Okay? We want to show how that comes about and what we see with it. Oh, looks like the text is backwards. Hopefully not. If so, sorry. Should have been here. We start with a topic sentence that clearly gives us that idea of what is our focus. Our focus in this scene is going to be on the conversation section of the passage. This starts on line 29 and runs to the top of the second column. We integrate our quotes where we embed them here, but we notice that we don't want to summarize. Summarization is not our purpose here. Our purpose is to talk about how the author characterizes the relationship. And so in doing so, we can talk about a strategy he uses like syntax. We can say, hey, the syntax here helps to show Joe's nervousness. And so as we get in here and we talk about, we can just point out the syntax and we don't need to point out the quote with it. We get it. What's the effect? We have it there for us. And so we're able to show through Joe's nervousness, hey, this relationship is evolving and it's changing. But then as we get into the rest of the paragraph, we want to show, hey, with dad is your stability. Where Joe is nervous because he doesn't want to hurt his feelings, dad's the same way. He doesn't want to hurt his feelings, so he's not going to react to this news emotionally. Instead, he accepts it and he offers this thing. How do we see that stability? Notice that we go here from a loose syntax with run-on sentences to here, simple sentences and questions. Very simple, direct, assertive. Joe picks up on that because if you look at your transition point, Joe says it's very simple, but to the reader and to an adult Joe who's narrating it, he understands that nothing about this was simple at all. So as you're writing today, keep in mind, what's the effect? See? Look at that.